Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Friday Live. I am your host, Tracy Reddy, and of course, Friday Live is a weekly show dedicated to having conversations around current events at the intersection of relationships. So, today is no different. We will be talking about a couple of things, one of which being the whole, if you ain't under a rock, you know about Oprah and the Harry and Meghan interview and all that. So we're going to touch on that briefly. We're also going to do our segment that we finally given a name to. It's going to be called, I think I said On the Wall. On the Wall. And basically it's a nod to how we did Friday Live, from the beginning, which is going and visiting the Soul Care for Single Black Women Facebook page, which if you haven't been there yet, have never been there, then you can definitely go visit facebook.com/soul care for single Black women, all spelled out. And you can see your favorite post there or any post that we talk about today. You can see that and actually go on there and comment and share your thoughts or whatever. So today I have a very, 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 very special guest. She is my classmate in a coaching community that we're in, a business coaching group thing that we in, chat. And program. That's what I'm trying to think, program. Anyway, so we're in this program together. And so she is just a delightful person. She is I want to get it right. She is a certified financial counselor and the CEO of Breaking Cycles. Now, she's going to tell us a little bit more about that. And I'm going to bring her in now. Her name is Nashira Lynton. Let me bring her up. Give her a round of applause, ladies. Give her a round of applause. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
I've never had anyone call me their classmate. And so that is so fitting. Because we're students in a mastermind together and learning and on this journey, entrepreneur journey together. So thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Absolutely. Yes. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, who you serve, and the big difference you're making in the world today.
Yes. So like she said, my name is Nashira Lynton. I am a certified financial counselor. I am the owner of a company called Breaking Cycles, which is a personal finance practice that helps professionals deal with their relationship with money. So not your relationship with men, but relationship with money, as well as dealing with the relational, as well as the behavioral aspect of money. So we don't focus on just what your numbers are. We focus on the reasons behind why your numbers are the way they
are. Awesome. And so tell us real quickly, for anybody who may or may not stay for the whole thing, tell us real quickly who would be your ideal person? Who is the person that you're looking to work with at the time? And then tell us how they can reach you.
Yeah. So 90% of my clients are females. Either they're professionals, so they're either in the workforce, or they are entrepreneurs or somewhere in between that. So transitioning from their work job to their entrepreneur journey. They can find me at www.breaking-cycles.com.
Awesome.
All the information there. There's a link where you can get in contact and have a quick conversation to see if your money relationship needs some soul care.
Okay, okay. Thank you for the tie-in. A lot of people don't realize just how emotional their relationship to money and their finances is. Like, people try to compartmentalize it as its own thing, and no, it's very much literally, even when because my husband and I are in the house hunting process. Okay. Very, very early stages here. But in doing so, it's girl, it touches your heart. I mean, it's right there, you know. So yeah, the soul care that is needed for your finances, you can reach out to Nashira at, give them the website again.
It's www.breaking-cycles.com.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we will revisit that again towards the end. But for now, we're going to jump into our segment that, like I said, y'all, it's a new name for it, called On the Wall. Insert graphic here. There ain't no graphic. I'm just playing. For now anyway. Okay. For now. But On the Wall. So that's when we're going to visit the Soul Care for Single Black Women page. And I always have the guests to go visit the page and find a post that really stood out to them. And then I also sometimes have one as well that I will discuss. So in this case, On the Wall today, Miss Nashira says she wants to talk about this, honey. Now, I don't know if y'all remember this post. It is from February 2nd. I don't even know if you can see it good, honey. But it's from February 2nd. And basically, a guy seems to have written to texting someone saying that his girlfriend and her best friend, who had come to town to visit her, were out eating. The best friend's card got declined, and the girlfriend got upset that the boyfriend did not pay for her, did not cover, the visiting friend. So when you go into the comments, though, that's where the real comedy is, because because you have a lot of mixed thoughts and opinions. And so first we're gonna go to our financial expert here and get her insight on this while I pull up the comments. What's your initial thoughts when you read this?
Initial thought is his girlfriend should have paid the bill.
Tell me more.
Well, because she did the inviting, right? So the person who invites should be the person who pays the bill. In my opinion, whether it's dating brand new or unless it's something that's common and you discuss beforehand. So I do believe that the girlfriend who invited her best friend would have paid the bill.
Okay. All right. So there were a lot of mixed feelings. A lot of mixed feelings about this one. And I'm going to see if I can get those comments, some of these comments to come up. So we've got people who said, okay, it could never be my man.
Yeah.
And then you got folks who say, nope, she's on her own. Like, forget the friend, not the boyfriend paid, not the best friend paid. Like, just leave her. Leave it. Just leave her where she is. And of course, I got my thoughts on it. And then they said she needs to pay for her friend. And then there was another piece of the puzzle is that the bill that she had racked up was $131. So it was a significant amount. Yeah. So, but the part that stood out to me and the thing that really got me is when he says, I refuse to pay. Tell me why Britt mad at me, his girlfriend, said I'm cheap and I embarrassed her in front of her friend. Yo, I embarrassed your dumb A. Okay, this is what was in the original message before I bleeped it out. I paid for both of us. Your friend embarrassed you by showing up broke. LMAO, laugh my butt off. B Chase, what's his name? Then he calls her a B word. It says Chase ain't lock your card, and then it says something like "Don't try to play me" or whatever. And what is your reaction to that? That part, just that part of it.
Just that part. I don't agree with the language he's using to even describe his girlfriend. So that is whoa, right? I do feel like if he's comfortable in describing her in that way, maybe he already talks to her in that sense. Mm-hmm. So it's not like this doesn't seem like he's feeling, getting uncomfortable with how he's describing her. He must use that language. It must come naturally to him. But he has a point, though. He has a point. So I can't be mad at him. Whereas, nowadays, if Chase locked your car, you most likely have a Chase app where you can unlock your car.
Go in and get it situated.
Go in and get an alert and say, so it's, obviously he has some sense of what is going on here. You have a really high bill and you probably were not paying attention to that bill or assuming that someone was going to cover that cost of your bill as you being the guest. And it doesn't seem fair for him to pay a bill that, hey, no one told him he was going to have to pay in the first place.
Yeah. So it's funny. I presented, when I first posted this, I presented it to my husband. He was like, man, do the chump. He was like, first of all, we got guests coming. He was like, if we got it, we're paying for, they ain't gonna have to raise a finger. She should even, his thinking and mine too, she wouldn't even have to think about it, provided we have it. If we don't have it, then it's like, girl, good to see you. We gonna, hug you. That's our payment for you. But in the event that we can, we're going to cover people just like people have covered us. We've been guests, in their city, in their town, or whatever. So, so there's that part. So there's that. But see, my thinking is I couldn't even get past calling her B words and things like I was like, first of all, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't even care about the ticket thing. Now, as a matter of fact, my real stance on it is I get it. That's a high bill, and to be not expecting to pay that is significant, that's significant, particularly if you got it. But it's one thing to say, man, girlfriend, I don't have this. I can't afford this. And so she gonna have to just figure something out, but a lot of people, because I posted this in a lot of relationship groups on Facebook, a lot of people took the stance that they thought she was intentionally running up a bill to not have to pay it, and I'm like, why can't somebody's car get you? Like, it was so much missing information. We don't know if the next piece of that was, oh, she called Chase and worked it out and paid her own bill. We don't know if she told them, hey, can y'all catch this for me right now? I'll pay y'all back when I get my card unlocked, while I'm still here. Whatever. We don't have none of that contact with everybody, not everybody, but so many people just assumed the worst. And it was women that was assuming the worst about women. And I'm like, come on, we got to do better. We got to do better. Everybody ain't out here trying to run game like that, But yeah, so one of the people who's watching said, I agree with your husband. that he was, dude, come on, but again, I get it if it's
it does sound like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, not a husband-wife relationship. And I think that is also something that she could now explore. Like, would this be the man that I want to marry if he can't meet my friend out, right? So it's definitely more opening to see probably what their dynamic of their relationship is. Plus, you could kind of see the level in which he's talking, right? The using emojis. So when you're talking about maybe his maturity level to sit and be able to say, okay, I actually want to meet your friend, or I actually want to pay for your friend to go out to eat with us. So when I think of it as whether she's a female or a male, the responsibility of showing up and not expecting has to be something that we also get accustomed to, right? Whereas we don't know what the other person is saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we don't know what that, like, of course, when I say me and my husband go places and, and then people treat us, we always ready to pay for our own stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes they tell us on the front end, hey, it's on us, get whatever you want. And sometimes it's on the back end where they're like, hey, I got y'all, that kind of thing. So we're always ready with our own. So if the friend was, if I could get past all the B words and all the, cursing and disrespect, if the friend came into the situation with the idea that they're going to pay for me, then she wrong. But to make that assumption automatically, and we don't really know we don't know how the situation played out. I just think it's unfair. It's and I'm all about Black women. and just women in general, and I'm like, I want to give us the benefit of the doubt more so than I want to, you bad woman, you did bad things, but that's just me. I'm biased, so I own that. I own that part. I want to get, and that's really what everybody, I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they're proven that, I was being shady. So we don't know how the situation played out.
I can tell that based off the wall.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So somebody else said that's very true. Now, Facebook user, you're gonna have to tell us first of all, who are you, honey? Because I know you in the group. Because honestly, we broadcast this is in the group, and so who are you, and what are you referring to when you say that's very true? Now, in the meantime, in between time, we're gonna jump into our next topic, which is going to be about Meghan and Harry. Now, I know you didn't watch it, so we got two really good perspectives because she didn't even watch it. And so she's catching what's been coming on social media. Chad, you follow that close enough, you can figure out what done happened. Because people have been like giving opinions left and right. And so for anybody who may have not watched it or just maybe like, what are y'all talking about? Prince Harry from the UK and his wife, biracial, Meghan Markle, did an interview, like a tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey, and y'all, everybody talking about it. And basically, Meghan revealed a lot of things that happened with her. Because, I know we made a whole event out of it. I ain't even gonna hold. One of my friends she is like a royal fanatic. Like, she loves the royals. And so, yeah, she's crazy about them. And so she's like my royal connect. I would have had her. I should have had her on this call. But she's like my royal connect. And so she gave me all, she got us all hyped up. So we went and bought tea and crumpets, and we went to World Market and bought all kind of stuff. We got up early in the morning or through the night to watch the wedding. Like, it was a whole mess. And so we watched it, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful ceremony, beautiful presentation, all that kind of stuff. She made sure she mixed in some Black culture, some American culture in there, along with, where her husband's from and all that. But all that glitters what gold, because on this interview, she goes into talking about all the hardships and things that were faced, during that time and in her whole, time there. And now, since her and Harry have decided to not be what they call senior officials in the royal court anymore, and the family has since cut them off financially. So we can pause right there in one sense and talk about, that from a financial perspective, how you can protect yourself when you are at that level of means, because a lot of us will never even see that level, but to be that dependent on somebody else providing for you. What are your initial thoughts on the stuff that you have seen and read so far, Nashira?
Just that being, off the family budget. Like, are you talking about my initial thoughts on them being removed from the family budget, or just from the interview in itself?
The interview of itself, in and of itself first. We can start there.
I have to say that I always assume that they kept things private for a reason. That they had their own reasons for wanting to separate their lives or keep their business to themselves. So being able to sit down and have a tell-all, my first initial instinct is why. Right? So why are you having a tell-all? Because there is some monetary gain from sitting down and having a conversation at that level in which you're having it, right? Because all the news and everything, that the hype that will be surrounded. So my initial thought is, okay, so why are you having a tell, being such a private couple, or wanting to keep things so private? So that's my first thought. And then in terms of just like the scale onto which it's causing, right? There obviously must be some really good monetary gain from all the scandal and all the conversations that happens, and to the level in which they did it with Oprah, right? Of all,
the queen of all media across the world.
They cannot not have another patient, right? Now everybody would just feed off of that one person that they. So that, that's my perspective. Why did you guys need to have a conversation at this time? So was it financial gain now that you are off your family's budget? Is there a bigger purpose behind it? Is there something that you guys have coming up that you probably now need to be more in the spotlight? So I think of the reasons behind it. And I don't want to make any assumptions because I don't know. I guess we wait and see what happens for this. But that's just my thought.
I really love your perspective. I've had, like I said, I have one friend who was like a royal expert, honey. She followed everything them folks do. But then I have other friends who just like have girl, one friend messaged me like 7 o'clock in the morning. Are you up? I gotta tell you that we gotta talk about this. So but to hear your perspective is very different from everything that I've heard from everyone else because you didn't watch it. And you raise a really good question. What is the motivation behind this? And when I think about the interview, and I could be sure y'all can leave your messages in the comments to let me know. I don't recall a why now, a clear answer, nothing that stands out to me other than to clear the air and to dispel some of the myths and lies or assumptions or things that's put out there about Meghan and about their exit from the royal family and all that stuff, to just clear some things up. But like I said, that's a great question because they told in the interview that they have started a production company called Archwell because their baby's name is Archie. And so it's called Archwell, and it's a production company where they're going to be producing content, based on the stuff that the two of them love, and they have a deal with like Spotify or Netflix or somebody, I don't know. And so, they didn't get completely cut off from what I understand from the interview and from the post interview because Oprah went on CBS this morning the next day to talk about other parts that were cut out and all that. And so between those two interviews, what I got from it is that they're going to start creating that content there. And I forgot what I was about to what I was about to say, but they're going to do that. And basically,
I'm sorry. You said that they weren't completely cut off.
Oh yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, they weren't completely cut off until like the end of January, and apparently, allegedly, this interview with Oprah had already been in the works. So you could say, well, they're doing it because they got cut off. Now they need some more money. But one thing he mentioned that really took me by surprise, and maybe this is where you could offer some financial advice as it pertains to, financial legacies and things like that. They said that the reason they were able to survive after they left was that it didn't become official to the end of January. But I guess before then, money had slowed down or quit or whatever. And the only reason they were able to survive is because Princess Diana, his mom, left him an inheritance himself that he was able to draw from and live off of, until they figured out what they were going to do next. Now, granted, it wasn't no little petty little $200 or $300. It was, I think somebody said 25 million or 20 million or something like that. So the assumption from a relational standpoint, they were saying that there's so many things floating around out there that he might have been someone else's child. And when that came out, she might have been aware that they would mistreat him. But I don't think that's true because he looked just like Prince Charles. So I don't think that's true. But also they were saying that, because he more than likely won't get to the throne, and that his brother and then his brother's kids are way ahead of him as far as the throne is concerned. She wanted to make sure that he ensured that he was going to be okay financially, So anyway, he got his own money that way. So speak to that whole notion of the financial piece of, caring for your loved ones and thinking ahead like that in the financial space.
Yeah, I think that we are thinking about, I hear this a lot, right? And I think, and you can see it everywhere you go, where people are like, I want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
Whether you have children or you don't have children, people talk about, I want to leave some sort of legacy. And I think that it's not just about what you want to do, it's the steps that you take in order to do that. It's seeing your kids, it's seeing your family members in the position that they're in now, and really having that rough conversation is, what happens if I'm no longer around?
Yeah.
That's a conversation no one wants to have, but that's what truly leaving a legacy is. It's not about what you're doing, like, okay, well, I'm going to create this wonderful life for you guys right now. It's what happens when you're gone.
Right.
That's legacy. It's the aftermath of when you leave this earth that we live in.
Yeah.
You start to take steps in order to do that. She must have been able to take a step back and say, well, let me think through what would happen in this case and what would happen. When I'm walking people through their financial situation, most people can't get past thinking about the next 3 months, the next 6 years alone. Right?
That's good.
So we do a lot of visualization, right? And we don't just do it once. We talk about the 95-year-old you, like 4 sessions in, and then another last session, we do it again, because it's to help you start to think about, who are you at that age? How broke do you want her to be, and what do you want her to leave?
Yeah, that's so good.
And so it's really starting to think through these hard conversations. Like, no one wants to sit and talk with their family member. What happens if I leave a little early? Like, kids, I want a party. Don't throw me a funeral. Like, play all my favorite worship songs. It's corny, but it's having those conversations in a way that they can kind of grasp and understand what would happen. So thinking about that ahead of time, it's so important. And it doesn't even require you to spend so much time doing. It just requires you taking a little bit of your time to think.
Yeah.
Like for you.
How do you help people get over that? How do you ease them into that conversation? Because I know at some point me and my husband will sit down with you and have those conversations. But how do you ease people into those conversations? Because they are hard. You don't want to think about either one of you not being here. So how do you mentally prepare them to go into that conversation?
Yeah. So first off, I do the way I break it down is we work on past, present, and then future. So I never want to start to talk about your future if I haven't really helped you address the past. Right? Your past tells you what the patterns are that you're doing in the present, right? So in order for us to understand the present, we look at the past, right? Those patterns, those things, what's influencing you. And then once we deal with the present and what you really want it to look like, that's when we move into, okay, let's talk about your future self. And we don't go straight into like the 95-year-old you, but we start thinking, okay, what does the next 5 years look like? Right. So even if I ask you, Tracy, like, you in 5 years from today, March 10th, and it is 2026, like, what do you want? And I start with light things, like, what do you want your hair to look like? What outfits? What kind of style do you want? And what home do you want to be in? You're a home person. You're a traveler, like a mover, right? So, like, what space do you want to be in at that time? And then we start to dig a little deeper, and never too deep, but deep enough for us to start to gather what those numbers would look like.
Girl, you even me thinking like 5 years, God.
Yeah. I'm gonna be covering gray hairs. Like,
you kind of think in terms of, in the future I want to ... But to be like, oh God, 5, I don't know. Like, so I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to the time we will sit down and do some financial planning. Because even in the whole idea of, just like you said, being an older person, it's funny that you mentioned that, because today I had just ordered me a new box of contact lenses, and I was putting in my new contacts, and I was like, the 80-some-year-old people be wearing contacts. Like, how long do I expect I'm gonna be wearing contacts? And my little head can get all shaped. Like, what? Like, I want to post it on Facebook. Does anybody have like a 80 or 90-year-old grandma or grandpa who's wearing contact lenses? But we don't tend to think about that kind of stuff all the time. But I thought about it today, like, what would that be like in several years down the line, me in contacts? Like, is this still gonna be a thing?
Well, I don't know if you can do it with your clients, but can you think about what it's like? I have a joke, right? So I say, I need to think about, am I still gonna want to be with him in 58 years? Like, that's a thing for me, right? Like, in 58 years, it's just a joke. It's not like something I really wrote down. But that long-term perspective, sometimes we have to take a moment and say, what is that going to be? We never really know. We can plan it to the T, but it's really just something for us to get a gist of who it is that we want to be at that moment.
Have some possibilities, like, okay, if life turns this way, this will happen, that way, that'll happen. We already have a plan. And you know what? That's something I do try to do with my ladies, from the dating perspective and preparing for a relationship, is, in fact, okay, things are going to happen. You're not going to, it's possible that you could meet your guy from after we do our work and you go back out there dating. You could meet your guy. He could be one of the guys you meet like ASAP, but If and he ain't, or if you don't meet him, or you're having to continue past the work we do together and still keep dating, baby, keep doing it the way we're doing it. It don't mean you do it the way we do it while you're in the program, and then when you get out the program, oh, you just go back here wilding out. No, you have everything in you to work in your, work out different possibilities of what could happen. You could meet somebody, you like them a lot, and you have a breakup. That breakup shouldn't affect you the same way previous breakups affected you because of the work we've done. Because, before you even get with him, you would have done a lot of stuff because you've been through my program. So I 100% get it. Just that whole idea of having your possibilities all lined up so that nothing, like I said, you never can tell what's going to come up as a surprise, but you can be as prepared as you can to deal with those things. So yeah, Princess Diana obviously foresaw, okay, y'all gonna play on my little redhead, so I better set him up just right, And so that happened. So some of the things that they brought up in that interview were very disturbing. For example, one of the things was that Megan, she was I think she went into this without really thinking about all that it was going to entail, like being a royal. And so it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of isolation for her. Mm-hmm. And she was told, as she's mentioned in the interview, I was told that I would be protected, but I wasn't. In the media, in the public's eye, she would be protected, but she actually wasn't. And that caused a lot of headache and heartache to her, to the point where she became suicidal. And she wanted to commit suicide. And so she asked them for assistance and said that I need help. And they did not give her help. They basically told her, you're on your own, and deal with it. And so, as a provider of help, as a helper, a healer, I'm just like, that is ridiculous. Because first of all, people are not quick to say they need help when it comes to mental health, And so for somebody to be able to verbalize, come forward and say that, and then they just get pushed aside, I just think that's cruel, cruel and unusual. What about you?
I think that is really cruel. It breaks my heart in a way to know that they have so many resources available that they could have provided her with. I'm sure it would have not even broke the budget, not even broke someone's 15 minutes to find her some really help, really resources. It also makes me think of, this is someone who, my mom used to say, if they love your kids, you love them. It doesn't matter. If you don't love them, that's fine. But if they love your kids, you love them. And I think about knowing that she was going to be his wife, that they were going to be married, or that they were already married. You would want her to be healthy for him, not for her, but for him.
If not for her, at least for him. Yeah.
I mean, it's cold to think of it that way. You don't care about her, but I care about him. And so I'm going to make sure you're okay because you're in his life. So it's sad to see that they didn't even care enough for either one to say, I want you to be healthy. That breaks my heart.
Yeah. And they were saying how it's, so two things that really just I was like, okay, this is interesting. She was saying that there is the family, the royal family, the actual family members. And then there's what they call the firm or the institution. And these are the people who manage the royal family. And she was saying that these people who manage are really the folks who are in charge, and the royals are more of the face of it all. And so, I mean, I've heard some arguments that, well, she says that, and Megan says in the interview, she was like, I want people to make a clear distinction between the family and the firm. She was like, there are two different entities. She didn't say which one. Well, then she did say she went to human resource. Well, I'm like, the castle got a human resource. Just certain words I wouldn't have expected. And, yeah, it's like, what? But so she said that she went to them. She went to somebody. I'm guessing it was the firm. And then she's like, I went to human resources. And in both places, she was rejected when she requested mental health. the weird thing about that to me is that Harry, her husband, has a therapist. He's been in therapy, if I'm not mistaken, since his mom passed. So, and that was years ago. I didn't realize it was so recent. I know it was in the 90s. I thought that lady had passed back in the 70s or 80s or something. My husband looked it up. He was like, "Did you realize Princess Diana got killed? Like, we was like in college." I'm like, what? I didn't realize that. I thought it was years ago. But so he's been in counseling in some regard. So it's like, on one hand, getting therapy is not a unusual thing in that environment. But then also, was the second thing that was really weird to me. Like, okay, you got the family and the firm is the real boss. But also, the other weird thing is how much emphasis, or maybe you knew this, girl, how much emphasis they place on the tabloids. Apparently, if you can stay in good graces with the tabloids, then you all is well in England. And I'm like, to hear her talking about how the royal family and tabloids are in such cahoots that the tabloids like host their parties and stuff at the Windsor Palace, because they want to stay in good graces with them. Because if they put out a bad story, then that's something they got to fight. And I'm just like, I know when we go to, we don't look at the tabloids as something reliable.
Sorry.
Okay, we don't look at the tabloids in America as something that's reliable. We don't do that. So that to me was so interesting to hear them say that they put so much weight and so much stock. Could you imagine that, like, President Obama or even Trump, or even Biden could not get their job done because, well, the National Enquirer said, could you even imagine that they couldn't do things because the tabloids ran a story? That's how much in cahoots they are with the tabloids. And the tabloids apparently make up stories. You know how they do. They make up stories. They fabricate things. They just make up complete untruths sometimes.
But you can think on that. I think about it is, it's a business, right? The tabloids are a business, and they give people something to look forward to, right? Like, what's the next story? What's the next thing? And so, we fund it, right? When we read it, when we click the link, when we, it's a, every time we click on a story and we open it, that's another sense that's going to them. And so they have to write these eye-catching stories to keep us entertained. And so for me, I could see how that is a real thing, like them being in cahoots with each other, because someone has to fund something, right? Like, someone has to keep someone else happy. So it's a business,
that to me is so crazy, though, that yes, it's a business. Yes, people have to fund, every which way. Yes, we're sitting in anticipation and expectation for what's the next thing. But to put so much weight on what could be a completely made up story. You know what I'm saying? To put so much, it's one, because guilty pleasures. I watch like Married to Medicine. I don't watch the Too Ratchet reality shows, but I do watch some of it. It is what it is. So I sit and I anticipate what's gonna happen there. But to say that the country's livelihood is based on what happened with Dr. Simone, or Portia on Real Housewives of Atlanta, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, to me, it's that level of comparison to put that much weight on the tabloids, because they're not there. They're, like you said, they're there for entertainment, not for honesty and truth. And so what they decide to say or not say could just shift the whole thing. Is just weird to me. It's weird. It's weird to me. But I
look forward to see what people do with what they heard from her, right? Because when we understand it from a bigger perspective, we start to see that, and this is just the royals and this is just her coming out. But imagine all the other fabricated stories, right? Like, 90% of what you read online is not true because it doesn't come from the actual source. So they are fabricated. So it's like thinking about what happens now that we're a little bit more aware about what's going on in their stories. Are we still as interested in the royals from that perspective?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's why I was saying too, that's the whole reason for bringing up the tabloids is I'm thinking maybe they were saying it wouldn't, well, actually she said this, it wouldn't look good, meaning the tabloids reporting that she gone to therapy wouldn't look good for them, and I'm just like, well, she needs therapy. Like the girl is suicidal, She told a story, this is real heartbreaking. She told a story that when she finally told her husband that, okay, I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these, situation, all that, they had a event that they had to go to that evening. And one thing about it, she mentioned, and Harry did too, when it's time to turn off all that other stuff and turn on and go be in the public, you got to go be ready, And so she said when she told him, that was a big deal for them, but they had to go to this event. And she said her friend called her and was like, oh, girl, y'all look so pretty, so happy. Oh, my God, everything. And she was like, she said, well, when I look at that picture, I'm looking in my eyes and I'm seeing our fists are clenched together and, we're smiling, but I'm literally suicidal at that very moment, that day. She was like, so that picture gives her mixed emotions because how many people looked at that, and knew and said, oh, they look good. And they really look really, really good, But that was the deal. And also Harry was trying to tell her, you shouldn't go tonight. You should just stay home, relax, whatever. And she was like, I can't be left alone because I don't know what I'm like. Because she had got to the point where she was like, all this craziness could end if I just wasn't alive. And so that's kind of her reasoning and everything. So she had to go in because she was afraid she might do something while they were gone.
Yeah, that is so sad. Think about it even from perspective of, even the average female, right? When we look at photos, right, and we think of a breakup we may have been going through, we think about a tough time, but we're smiling with our family, or we went to that event anyways. We all have some past moments where we probably had to push through. So I'm glad that she's vocalizing that hard time, she identified where she needed to be or what she needed to continue doing. That's really important, I think, for a lot of us to hear, because we all have a picture that when we think back, we'd be like, oh, we look good. But that was because I broke up, I was stressed, and that skinny wasn't real skinny. That was like not eating skinny.
Girl, you better tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Baby, let me tell you something. I have a picture right now. Every time I see it, I'm like, ugh. Because I had just gone through this horrible breakup, which all kind of led to what I do now with the single ladies. I went through this horrible breakup. All I did, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The breakup was 1 week, and then like a week later, I got laid off my job. So I didn't have no reason to leave the house. I had no kids, nothing like that. So I was just there. And one of my friends was like, you got to get out the house. We having a barbecue. I think it was 4th of July or something, or 4th of July weekend. And she was like, just come over. It don't matter. Just come over. So I eyes all puffy and red from crying and stuff. And and like you said, I had at that time, I was smaller anyway, because I had been working out and everything, but I lost a lot of weight. It was grief weight. And so I went on to give him a little makeup, put my little hair on, on. And I get over to that part. And I took a picture of me looking down at the phone, like, why am I here? And I took that picture, and now when I see that I'm just like Megan, I'm looking at that picture like, I'm cute and all, but that is not, that picture is not representative of what I was feeling that day.
Yeah.
So you are so true. That grief weight, girl.
People be like, you look so much weight. You look so good.
Kind of thanks. Yeah. So the other big story, aside from the mental health, and probably the largest story of this, is where they talk about that somebody, they didn't say whether it was somebody in the firm or the family, said that they were concerned about what the baby's skin tone would be.
Wow.
And here's my initial reaction to that is, if you don't ever looked at Meghan Markle, you can see that she is very, very light bright and darn near white, as they used to say. There is a picture. My friend who called me early that morning, I'm gonna try to pull a picture up here. But there was a friend that called me early that morning and was like, let's talk about it. And she's in a sorority, and she said, what would it look like? She said her sorority girls, they were in a group talking. It was like, oh, it'd be great if we could get her as an honorary member. And then somebody said, well, actually, she's already in a sorority. She's in a white sorority. And so they pulled up a picture. Girl, when I tell you, you look at this picture, it looked like a bunch of white women. You can't even, you can't even tell that Megan's in the picture, that she's a black girl, a mixed girl. She looks literally just like them. Like if you didn't know her face, if this was before all this stuff happened, before she was an actress and all that, you just, look at all them pretty white women. Oh, all right then. But so I'm like, for them to have that concern over this black girl and your son or grandson or whoever, I'm like, what? They couldn't get no lighter.
Yeah. It's so sad. That is so sad. That is so sad. And I think that people do that in all cultures, right? Like, I'll be honest, I had, my kids are way lighter than me, and people will still be like, that's your mom? That's your, you know what I mean? So I think it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm their mother. Yeah, like they came out of me. They don't look in terms of skin tone colors and even just the complexion. But it's like, why are we so worried about, can we worry if the baby is healthy? Can we talk about the health of the child and what that might look like instead of focusing on what color the baby may be?
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, it's just even the wrong question to ask. But one of my friends was saying, she said, she took a different approach to it, and she was like, the way I see it is, we need more context to that conversation, because in all honesty, she's like, we do it all the time. Like if somebody marries somebody light skinned and the other person's dark skinned, even within our race, and she's like, we do it all the time. I wonder who color you gonna take, and just kind of she's thinking of it as more of an innocent just conversation. And also when I looked at the Britain, I'm trying to pull this picture up here. When I looked at the British news about the aftermath of the interview, Piers Morgan, a reporter over there who has I guess you could say, a fractured relationship with Meghan Markle. I don't know what happened, but that's what everybody was saying. But they were just talking about his point of view was, he was like, it seemed like that would be something that you would just say anyway, not from a racial standpoint, but just like, what's the color? But my thing is, like you said, Nashira, why is this even a question? Like, we want to know if the baby's going to be healthy. So I'm about to pull up this picture of her. I hope it looks big enough. You can't even tell which one Megan if you didn't know no better.
Yeah.
Just scanning that picture, you can't even almost pick up, but except we know her face. That's it.
Yep.
So I'm like, it's really not a concern, and for them to make it a concern, it's concerning.
Well, you're right. We do that in all cultures. We do that in I wonder who the baby's gonna look like or what complexion, and I can see the innocence in that conversation. It's just sometimes you want to make sure that the heart behind it is in the right place too, because if we don't start to check that, then that can go a long way, right? Like, so I always check my kids, because in the Spanish culture, you will call a lighter kid like a gringo, right? Like they're whiter than other. And when I correct them, I'd be like, no, my kids are black, right? Like, I don't care what color. They can look like paper. No, they're black. And that starts to get in people's heads. Like, why are you calling me like that? But you call someone else that, or another kid in the family this, and that can mess with people's head. And so we need to, maybe we don't make it such a light conversation anymore. Maybe we start to change the way we talk about the color of someone's skin, and we don't talk about that at all.
We don't talk about that. Yeah, just like we are, it's a lot of changes happening right now in society,
One of them.
Huh?
And that could be one of them. We stop.
Right, I was about to say, this could bring up the fact that, like back in the day, it's been real common for folks to say, after you get married, when you're going to have a baby. And now I hear people saying, like, that's what you actually asking me, when me and my husband gonna have sex and conceive a child. You're like, that ain't your business. And I was like, I've never had thought about it that way until I got married now. And now everybody literally, y'all gonna have a little one. I'm like, when you gonna shut up? Because
you can have it for us. Talk like that. What I'm gonna do.
And one girl or several people have shared their story and saying that, they respond, well, I've had miscarriages. And the person like, oh. So you see, like, it's like you don't know the line that you're crossing. And another point that was brought up, which I think is amazing, you got to think about, yes, that could be an innocent conversation where it's like, I wonder who color going to be. But in the backdrop of all that was already going on, she was being called, they had headlines, she was being called monkeys and black bees and all kinds, just the media was tearing her up over there, There were people who loved her, a lot of people that loved her, but it was people who was hate,
Yeah.
So because she had so many things against her, she's mixed, she's from America, she's divorced, she's all the things that the person who would typically marry a royal would not be. She was all that, And so you got to think of a comment like that in that context, because if me and you just sitting down at the kitchen table and, I'm pregnant, you'd be like, girl, I wonder what he gonna take. Is he or she gonna take, you or your husband color? There's ain't no animosity. There's no backdrop. And we just having conversation, child. Your grandma asked something like that. You just answer, y'all just talk about it, whatever. But in this context, it's a lot. It's weighted like on top of all this, you're gonna ask what the baby color.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. This may be something that sparked not go there, and just be prayerful and hopeful for a beautiful, healthy baby,
And we stop asking people. Like we make that a thing where we stop asking people to go make babies. 2021. Enough,
because people
only people who should worry about that is the person dating or in the relationship or married. That's the only people who should worry about when or why they're having babies.
I 100% agree, because you don't know, like you said, like I was saying earlier, if they had tried and it didn't work, or what kind of process they may be going through, or where they may be as a couple. That could be a point of contention. One person wants one person does, one person wants one now. It wasn't one way, and so now when you bring that up,
maybe they can't afford it and they don't want their baby to be broke.
That part too.
They ain't leave no money.
So many pieces to that puzzle,
Exactly.
Babies, it generally speaking, are easy to make, so if a couple is together and hasn't had one, it might be a reason. So shut up.
Some people, being in the field of finances, there are some couples that, they one or the other may come from a poor background. And they may have struggled, had 5 or 6 siblings, and remember what that feels like. Yeah. And they come from a perspective of, I want to give my kid everything because they did not have. And so when you think about that person may be saying, no, let's wait for a reason. They may be wanting to build enough cushion to have that baby and to do it in a way that they want to do it. Have choices. They want to have options. And so, they may be saving up for it. They may be waiting for the right moment for them to go ahead and have babies.
And, and then some people could just be like, we don't want one. We have some friends now. They've been married at least 10 years, probably maybe going towards 15 or so. And they're dinks. Have you heard that term before?
No, but I assume I know what it means. They don't want no baby.
Yeah, it's short for dink is short for double income, no kids. And that is their chosen lifestyle. Yeah, write that one down. That is their chosen lifestyle. That is what they're like. We have enough nieces and nephews. We could just be the cool auntie and uncle who they come and visit. Nobody's business why we don't want to have kids, but that's choosing, and they're fine with it. Because
for me, I'm entering into the dating scene, and what I find is that there are a lot of men who don't have kids, who want kids and want family, and I am the opposite. Whereas I've been parenting for a long time and I don't want kids. So it's like something right out the door where I can just say now and be like, oh, sorry, that's not going to happen. And then move on with the process.
Yeah. So that's a way
if you want it or not.
Your list down. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, that's just one of those things we need to probably just clean up and say, you know what? It's not a good idea to even talk about this. And let's see, what else was there about the whole situation? Girl, some little fun facts from the situation is that when they left the UK, and they left about this time last year, so it was right at the beginning of quarantine, borders were starting to close and all kind of stuff. So here they are, not knowing if they would even be able to get back into England or whatever, at the time, honey, Tyler Perry, they lived at Tyler Perry's house. Also, they took away Harry's security. So Harry and Meghan have a baby. That baby is Prince, essentially. And is a target for maybe kidnappers or whatever. They told her your baby and your baby ain't gonna have no security. There's that. And then at some point in this whole process, they took away Harry's security. Now he is the Queen's grandson, and they took away his security.
Yeah.
And so when they came over here, that's when they, when all this stuff went down, that's when they got the call that y'all are not gonna have security, even Harry's security. And so they're like, okay, what we gonna do? We are about to get cut off financially. We don't have no protection. And Tyler Perry said, come on, baby, come stay in my house. I'm like, Tyler Perry is the big mama that everybody needs. He said, y'all stay in my house, and then he got them security as well.
I love that.
I love that. And that is what financial freedom look like. When you have the, and not because we don't have to be billionaires to do that, to open our home, people, but it just so happen their friends who will come show up for them is different than our friends who gonna show up for us. But just to be able to have a space prepared for when tragedy happens or when unexpected things come up. Talk about that idea of savings, because let me tell you, I appreciate savings, but then I also have seen people get so obsessed with saving that they struggle, in their real life. And so I'm like, it's just the everyday life. Like, I ain't got. No, you actually have. Why aren't you spending it? So could you talk about that balance between healthy saving and also healthy spending? Money is here to serve us. So talk about that for me.
So there are different types of, give me 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead.
There you go. Yep. Different personalities, right? That's where the financial therapy aspect comes in, because you may have someone, and we call this money vigilant, right? Where you're money vigilant, like you're so afraid of what not having money looks like. So you kind of hoard, right? Where you're like, no. That comes from, right, past situations. Maybe it comes from you may have had a parent who was like reckless with money, or you got evicted, so you know what that feeling, that trauma comes from. You kind of shy back away. Now, the goal of life is not really how much you have, right, but the type of life satisfaction that you want. So there's actually studies and surveys out there that show after you reach a certain amount of money, the quality of life doesn't change for you. Like, you're not more happier because you have this certain amount of money. So really, when I think of finances is really the life satisfaction, right? So people told me, I was in $60,000 debt, found myself a single mom in New York, raising these 2 boys who were trying to eat me out of house and home. For me, I needed to save. I needed to make sure I had a cushion. So if anything happened, right, I wanted to be okay. I wanted them to be okay, or what my idea of okay was. So I went through that whole no, until I found the number that I was comfortable with having, till I can say yes, right?
That's good.
On quality life. I didn't want my boys to feel like everything was restricted, right? So, and even for myself, all the financial people that I went to see for myself were like, take coffee out your budget, take that. I paid off $60,000 in debt and never took my coffee budget away, right? Because coffee, the coffee dates meant something to me. It meant walking with a coworker. It meant talking to a mentor. It meant treating a friend out, and having that time alone with them. So it really depends on your quality of life and what you're expecting. Now, on the other end, you had people who never anticipated going through a pandemic.
Right.
Never anticipated that something like this could last for so long. So they did not save, or they did not even grasp the concept of having a savings. So when I sat with people during this time and they weren't going to the gym and they weren't going out to eat with friends and they weren't going to happy hour, then they started to see all this money that they spent in the past, which could have helped them in their present. So there is balance, but finding the right one for you is not something that someone else could determine, right? So I always tell people, you don't need Nashira's plan, you need your plan. Right? It's right for you. I can never tell you, Tracy, cut out this and cut out that, cut out this. I can give you recommendations, but it's up to you to say, oh no, we don't cut out my cable, right? Like I need my shows and I need that for the safety of everyone else, just like I needed my coffee, right? No, on my coffee budget because we want everyone to live. So it's really finding the life satisfaction, what is going to work well for you. And that doesn't mean you just randomly pick. It comes from, I cut out cable. I thought my kids were going to die. They didn't notice for 3 days.
Wow. Wow. They didn't even notice.
Didn't even know. They went looking for the time and they were like, oh, where's the cable box? And I was like, oh, so what happened is that we don't have that anymore. And they live. They're still alive. We're actually April 1st, we make 3 years debt free. You know, we've been able to build a net worth of 6 figures, going from that negative 60,000, and been able to live during a pandemic without mommy having to leave the household to go back, you know, to corporate America. So it was really about finding what works for me and my family. And that's exactly what I would recommend to anyone else. If you're thinking about rebuilding your savings because the tough time has came and now we're anticipating it for it to go, really start to think about what number makes you feel comfortable when you're sleeping at night. Is it 1,000? Is it 10? Is it 15? Right? You need to know that number for yourself.
So, wow, you said so much good stuff, right? We're going to have to probably do a part 2, honey, because
especially for the single women out there who are, because you know you got to put dating in your budget, right? Like, don't just go out there because you never know. He may not want to pay that bill and you don't need him texting about you later.
Right, putting the text up on the wall, yeah. But you said something, and I've heard this before. What is that number studies show? Like you said, for everybody, there's their own, really their own number. But what is that number that studies show is like once you reach there, there's really no change in your quality of life?
Now, this is old survey, and the number was 72,000. So, and that's in terms of what you make as income. They say that once you get past that number, you don't really have any, you're not any happier than that. Because you start to think about it, you're in a whole new tax bracket. Well, they've changed tax brackets, but you're in a whole new tax bracket. You're getting taxed at a higher rate. So the more you're earning, the more they're taking. You're also now not experiencing that endorphin like you was before, maybe when you were from like 50 to 60 and then like 60 to, so 72 was that number. And that's a real outdated. I'm sure now it's probably changed because a lot of us have upgraded our lifestyle.
Yeah. And prices and stuff have changed on different things like houses and all that. But I had heard once upon a time that it was 75, so we probably heard around the same time. But yeah. So but people, the takeaway is that there is a place where you can reach, and it's like, I'm good. You know. Now, if you want to be real showy and ball out and do all kind of random stuff that you know, then maybe you want more. But again, that's what you got to go call Nashira, because she's gonna be able to tell you and help you. Be able to figure out what the number is for you and the lifestyle and the quality of life that you want. I think that is so phenomenal, because I know I've listened to like financial coaches and stuff over the years, and I'm like all you have to do is cut out everything. And I'm like, first of all, ma'am or sir, what? I know at one point I was listening to some financial person and they was like saying all this stuff to cut out, and I'm like, I literally have cut out everything. And I still can't find the money to save up this amount, you know? And I'm like, so I can't even listen to you no more because you don't even sound like you make sense. Like, so I really appreciate the nuance that you put into your programs and your way of doing things, and that you're able to, you come from a place of, I don't know what your current lifestyle is, rather than assuming everybody is living on the same level. Like, I could imagine a financial coach like that, they're probably person that they're trying to reach double income, house, all this stuff. But when you somebody coming from where a lot of us came from, I don't even start. I'm way below that starting point. Like, that ain't my starting point, you know? So, you know, you got to kind of make the adjustments to where people are. And just to hear you say that lets me know what I already thought was that you're phenomenal. Because I think the more you can personalize a program or advice to fit the person, The more effective and impactful and more success they're probably going to have when they try to do it, as opposed to trying to fit their experience as a maybe perhaps single Black mother from the hood, fit it into a middle class white family, 2 incomes, 6 figures already. Is telling me to do what they do, it just ain't gonna work. Even principle wise, it just ain't gonna work. You got to come up with something else, Exactly. So do you have any last and final words to people as far as the advice goes for their finances? And also tell them again how they can reach you if they want to do some work in their area.
Yeah. So what I love about Tracy is that she cares about our souls, right? And she cares about how we love. And in my program is exactly the same way. I care about how you show up in love. And I recognize how money plays a part, right? So while I was going through my financial journey of going from that -60 to 6 figures of net worth, I realized that love played a big part in it and how I love my kids. And so even if you're in this journey of dating and experiencing what that's like, really knowing your numbers and being financially healthy is so important. It changes how you show up in your relationships, how you show up at work, how you show up for your family. And so if anyone is interested in jumping on a call, I have a 15-minute consultation. I send you the homework before the call, and we really just have a really high-level overview conversation about what your financial health is and where you stand. And for those of you who are not thinking about your financial health, it is almost the end of the first quarter of 2021. So think back to when you started the year, if you had any financial goals and you're not targeting them, that maybe that conversation is for you. And I have a brand new service that's called a financial health checkup that really helps you dive into that, right? So we look at a whole year's worth of data where we comb through that and we see the needs that you were trying to meet, and we see the numbers that work for you and what don't work for you. And I come up with a recommended plan based off our conversation. It's a 90-minute intensive. You can go on my website at www.breaking-cycles.com. I am only offering that for the next 3 weeks before my new program starts. So if anyone is interested, feel free to reach out or just come check me out. Let's have a conversation. Maybe you want to dive a little bit deeper into Tell Me Your Money story. I'm super open to hearing it. And thank you, Tracy, for having me. Yes, that's the website.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you shared all that and like some of the details of how you do it. I know you told me, we talked offline earlier a couple weeks ago, and you were saying how, you have a whole tool to that like take the whole overview. I was like, girl, for real, you can just look at
the whole picture. I think that when you can see it as a whole, you're no longer, uncertainty keeps us blinded from the decisions we want to make. Because we're thinking in the back of our head, like, should I go to that restaurant? What if I go and my car is just, and now you're filled with fear. You don't experience the night out with your friends the same way. But what about if you knew your numbers, right? Like you knew what was in your account before you went. You show up differently.
You show up with a confidence like, girl, I ain't got to check my account before I order this food.
I just have a client who is a single mom, relocated during the pandemic and just closed on her first home. Her whole confidence from where she started, the financial stress she was experiencing to now, is like 2 different people.
Wow.
So there is something to say about a woman who understands her financial health. She shows up differently. There's a different level of, I keep saying love because that was my story, right? I showed up different, how I loved my kids because I no longer love them with money. But it's just a different aspect of it. And so I know the women in here are either in love or falling in love or getting help from Tracy on how to fall in love, or maybe you're saving for Tracy's program. And hey, I am all for it. You create a savings fund to go get the help you need. Ain't nobody gonna fund it but you.
But you. One last thing, and I wish I had asked this earlier. 30 seconds. If a woman is looking at this and said, well, clearly this is not for me because I'm on a very, very tight income, very, very tight budget. She's talking about 6 figures. I'm barely making 5. Is there a space in your program for the lady who's just like, I don't have the money I don't feel like I have the resources to create a space to make savings and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So one of the pillars in my business is called Mind Your Space. So I love that you said the word space. So yes, I've actually, this brand new service is just a single service. Well, first of all, that 15-minute conversation and the checklist that I give you in order to check is completely free. It's my way of saying like, hey, I know that there's some things you're probably not thinking of. Let me help you with this checklist. So you can feel free to just go on the website, sign up for the call, and we can go over the checklist, or you just keep the checklist if you like. But yes, there is a lower ticket item that allows you to sit here and say, hey, I want to have a 90-minute intensive conversation with you. Here's my details. Let's go through this. That service is only $395. And honestly, it is that saving plan and debt plan that you know you've been wanting, but you haven't put the time into doing. It's there. It's done for you. It's used by tools that I have used for myself and for other clients. So you walk away with this plan already. But if you wanted to go a little bit further, then we have a different conversation at that time.
Thank you so much for that, because I can just imagine the ladies looking at this, like some lady looking at this like, nah, it sounds nice, but no. But we try to serve both Nashira and I both, especially the program that we're in, learning how to present our business, the mastermind that we're in. She said it properly. We try to have something for everybody. Because yes, we want to get paid and we want to secure our own financial legacies and all that stuff and freedom, but also we want to serve. We want to serve. So we try to have something for everyone. So don't be afraid to reach out to her at www.breaking-cycles.com. It's on the screen. And then you can also reach out to me as always, tracyready.com // consultation. And then we can have a conversation as well if you want to upgrade your dating journey, baby, because I'm ready to work with you if you're ready to do the work. All right. So thank you so much for Nashira for showing up and for being here on our Friday Live broadcast. And always, you guys, if you have any additional questions, if you're watching the replay, whatever, comment, and we will get back to you. I will direct it to Nashira. And if you have specific questions for her, we will get that to her. Until next week. Bye-bye. Hold on.